You are attending our first webinar of the day on GHR version 11 benefits. Two great presenters for you here. And with that, I give you Melissa and Kevin.
All right.
Thanks, Keith. Yeah, no, this is, Kevin is the foremost expert on GHR benefits. We've done a few implementations now, and there's been some lessons learned, and Kevin's just going to go over a lot of the setup, maybe some of the questions you may have. I will be asking from the S3 side, how do you do things like you used to do them back in Lawson? So that's kind of the structure of our presentation today, so go ahead and take it.
Thanks, Melissa, and just as a first and foremost, this is an entire module that we've boiled down into about 22 slides. So there's no way we can potentially cover everything. So if you do have questions as we're going through this, just please send them in and we'll answer them as we go. So this is RPI Consultants.
If you don't know who we are by now, yes, we're just Infor consulting firm. We take care of implementations, optimizations, managed services, all of the Infor products. And we are based in Baltimore, but we have consultants all over, everywhere. 100 strong or so.
So you'll recognize some of us from this slide. Today's agenda, benefits, yes, we love them. We'll talk about why we love benefits, how we use them, what else should we know. I'll try to make sure we talk a little bit about some of the gotchas. And then what do you got for us? Don't save your questions for the end. Ask them as we're going. Let's see here. Sorry, I'm clicking. So this is about the only slide I can come up with that's super professional. So I'm just going to read it. Fully automated, integrated administration of an organization's oftentimes second largest expense. Benefits is a huge expense to companies, usually second behind compensation. And GHR benefits can manage your COBRA, your qualified medical child supports, your evidence of insurability, has automated emails and document storage, definitive verification functionality, and we'll talk a little bit about all these a little bit later.
And this is really important because Lawson S3 did not cover any of these. This, to do any of this, you would have had to do some customizations or manage part of it in a third party or a spreadsheet and try and build some IPA flows or customizations in the system to take care of this. So Kevin pointed out, all of the great functionality that's new to version 11 landmark benefits.
So how do they work? With all that, it's got to be complicated, right? It's not. It's not super complicated, and that's mainly because there's a lot of this comes straight to you from Infor. It's delivered functionality, and we'll talk a little bit about that. So
it's very similar to the S3 setup, right?
Yeah.
If you know how to put your plan logic together, you can put it together very similar in this version, right?
So what's in the box? It's in caps because I'm trying to pretend I'm Brad Pitt. Obviously, I'm not. So we'll talk about functionality, processes, and some of the interfaces. Out of the box functionality, there's email templates delivered for benefits administration, EOI administration. When you add a benefit and a dependent into your benefit, you can tell the system, do you want to append it? Waiting for documentation, or do you want to let it go on in? Prerequisite plan management. So if you've got a health savings account that's only eligible for a high deductible plan, you can tie those two together, such that you can't elect the health savings plan or health savings account unless you pick that high deductible health plan. Electronic signatures for your enrollments. You can track when people signed it. You can make them either check a box or actually fill out their name. On the back end, it's still tied to whatever user ID is put in the system, so you can verify that. Medical support orders, you can basically not let somebody enroll unless they put their dependent on the plan. And all the regular stuff, so enrollments in your plan, just picking which medical plan you want, which dental plan you want, seeing the rates and things like that. I'll call that regular stuff. So that's functionality delivered. What about processes? Still in the box, yes. There's processes around mass enrolling people in default plans. So your basic life plan. You can mass enroll people into that, and they don't have to do anything.
So how does that work? Is it a job we're used to in the S3 system, jobs to kind of do everything?
Yeah.
And I know there's not a lot of batch processing in Landmark.
Yeah. So that's a really good question. So if you have S3's benefits, you're used to running a BN100, which kind of does all the updates at once. GHR has pulled that out into these various processes. Resource updates, whenever something happens to a person, they change eligibility, they go from one benefit group to another benefit group, they have a birthday, get older 1 year, their salary changes. The resource update will actually make those changes in the system for the employee. Benefit plan updates is separate. So if you change the coverage level in a benefit plan, but nothing's happened to the employee, you can just change the benefit plan and it applies it to the employee. So instead of one big BN100 process, it split them out into, I'll call it more manageable processes. Maybe more tedious to, you don't have to do one thing, but you have to do more. But it's a lot easier to maintain and manage and understand what you're doing in the system.
And at this point, you're able to see all the employees it captured or who?
Yes, and so when you run these updates, the system tells you, most cases, before the change actually gets made, hey, all these people switch from one plan to another plan, or switch from one rate to another rate, or all these people had a salary increase. Is that really what you wanted to have happen? And then you approve those processes.
Okay, so very sort of similar, whereas before you would have run it in report mode to see and capture, make sure everything looks right, and now you have an approval. Okay? Great.
Life insurance reportable income, instead of running in payroll, runs in benefits now. And we'll talk about on the next slide the interfaces. It sends that over into GHR, from GHR into S3's payroll. So let's talk about interfaces that are still in the box. Exports from GHR to S3 payroll. Benefit time records, and those are basically your life insurance imputed income records. They come in as a time record. Standard deductions and then one-time deductions. And so those are all delivered interfaces that go from GHR into S3. You don't have to customize them, you don't have to do anything to them except test them, make sure they work, and they're delivered from Infor. Imports from S3 into GHR. So your hours worked and your contributions year to date in the plans. And so those come back over to help you track things like vesting and benefit plans.
Right, ACA probably.
ACA calculations, because ACA is fully functional in GHR's benefits as well. And that other one is exports as a start. So if you're going to need to build exports and interfaces to your benefit carriers. There is a delivered functionality called resource export. It's not going to get you everything you need to send to your carrier, but it basically provides a pretty good base framework for you to use.
Your demographic file, your monthly or whatever.
Or to start from, or have your IT staff start with this and then add to it as needed.
And that's CSV, I'm assuming?
A CSV file will come out. And that's just a checkbox when you set up the plans. Do you want to use that functionality or not? Some people do, some people don't, and they'll build their own.
So this is a lot of interfaces, right? I mean, we're used to, again, everything being fully integrated in the other systems. So have you experienced any issues where things get kind of caught up, or what would I as a new user have to keep an eye on to make sure these things are running when I want them to run?
Yeah, so these can be all kicked off manually, so somebody could do it every Monday morning if you wanted to and just start the process. Or you can schedule them to run every 2 a.m. every Sunday night, whatever you want to do. As with everything else, there is an error report, an error log that comes out for each one of these exports and imports. And somebody would need to check those if they're, and some of the errors you have are maybe somebody in benefits set up a deduction that didn't get mapped into S3.
Which happens
sometimes.
Right?
That will show up as an error log in the standard deduction export. And
so you want to be proactive about making sure all these move over before payroll is run.
Correct, and actually that's a good, we'll go back one slide. That's actually a good point on the resource updates as well. If the resource updates will catch people who have maybe enrolled in a plan that's effective on the first of the month, but then quit.
Okay.
So you'll have the ability to see that that's an error, because it's going to give you an error saying, hey, this person doesn't work here, but they're enrolled in a benefit plan.
Yeah, they fell out of eligibility, but yet they're enrolled.
Yep. And so that is a spot that a lot of people forget to look at, all those error records.
Okay, great.
So we've talked a little bit about what it can do. Kind of how does it do that? It manages them not on the left, it's more on the right side. It really functions pretty well. There are a few things that you need to do to keep it, or to make sure you get it done right. And the first one is effective planning. And at the top of the effective planning is benefit groups.
I hear these are pretty complicated, but these are the drivers, and if they're done incorrectly, that can kind of mess up everything.
Yeah,
So they're similar to what we used to call employee groups in S3, but the difference is they're just for benefits, right? I'm not going to use
yes
these
and
groups
no.
for HR or for absence.
That's not entirely accurate.
Okay.
The way GHR works is you build a custom group, and I look at it like a lamp that's plugging into the wall. You build a custom group, and that custom group then can be used by various functions in GHR. So it's like the custom group is just sitting there and doesn't do anything until you plug it into benefits or plug it into absence management.
Okay.
In a lot of cases, you can have that benefit group, that custom group tied to benefits, and if it's all union employees, for example, and you use that group a lot, then maybe you just have a custom group called all union employees, and you tie it to absence, and you tie it to benefits,
Okay.
or you tie it to compensation. I would argue best practice would probably be to have separate benefit
Separate.
groups,
So you
have separate
know.
custom groups tied to your benefits plans.
Well, I think that's a lot where there's a lot of redundancy in the S3 system. Nobody really knows exactly what the group criteria is when they see the list of them, so they go out and build a new group. And then you end up with, over a couple hundred employee groups for different functions. So it seems like this manages them. You might have the redundancy, but you at least know exactly this has to do with benefits.
Yeah,
If I need to change something, let me go ahead and take a look at this criteria. I don't have to look for 5 groups that may touch one process.
Correct, and so you could name the group benefits, all union employees greater than 0.5. And so that would be the basic group that you would use. And so when you go look at your benefit groups, you can see exactly what that benefit group is. And then, so that's one key thing, is think about benefit groups, and we'll talk a little bit about enrollment groups briefly. But this is the basic building block, if you will, of how you actually enroll groups of people, what they see in benefits. If you make one big benefit group, everybody sees the exact same thing. If you have a group of executives, you would definitely create a different benefit group for executives, because then they can see different plans when they enroll.
Okay.
And then the other thing is reporting needs. What kind of reporting needs do you anticipate having? And then mechanically, you turn on benefits. There's literally a checkbox at the organization level in GHR that turns benefits on. And then the other thing to plan is, when do you want to start benefits? Do you want to do them during open enrollment for a 1/1 effective date? Do you want to do them on July 1st? We have the capability to basically load your benefits whenever you want them loaded. And then setting up the system. So now I apologize, the screenshots are kind of small, but I'll try to point out some of the things here. The basic setup of a benefit plan is you've got all these tabs down the left side.
And these look very similar to what we see in S3 on the BN15.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it shouldn't be a big learning curve here.
Yeah, and so generally, and this is one that's kind of important, is passive enrollment. So there's a box for passive enrollment here. There's a couple other spots that you have to check passive enrollment. But in GHR benefits, you can run passive enrollments for your open enrollment. And it works great.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know back in my old days of being an HRIS manager, I had to do passive enrollments, and there was a huge process in like loading a ton of spreadsheets, stopping dates for people, putting the new date, making sure everybody who's eligible is on that spreadsheet, and doing a mass upload just to get everything in there. So when they went in through enrollment, they would see the benefits that they were in last year.
Yep.
So, and that took me weeks to do that. So this is just,
it just
there's
runs,
no-
so if we were to look at an employee in a organization that has passive enrollment for open enrollment, They have a ton of people that stayed, and we'll talk about the statuses of things, but stayed in their draft status because they didn't want to make any changes. And when you go and look at the benefits in January, you have people with 2019 enrollments, and you have people with 1/1/2018 enrollments now because they didn't make any changes. They were happy with their benefits, and they're coming out on the carrier files. Everything works fantastic.
Nice.
Things to point out is in the highlighted you see eligible, entry rules, coverage, and contributions. Those are all places where your benefits groups are used. And it's kind of like a funnel. Eligible is anybody that, and I think of a, let me go back and say, I think of a plan as if you have a summary plan description or a plan document, that's a plan. So if you have 3 plan documents for your life insurance, you should probably have 3 life insurance plans. If you have one with different classes and different rates and different coverages and who gets in and at what time, that's technically one plan. Everybody's eligible for it. Then we get to the entry rules. That's where you say who gets into the plan when. When you get to the coverage that's kind of like your classes. You've got a class 1 executive, class 2 everybody else. That's what kind of coverage do they get. And then contributions is how much do people pay or how much does the company pay for each one of those. And so that's where it gets really important that you keep track of all those different benefit groups because they get applied in different places. And right here you can see this is a health plan and you've got 2018 and 2019 rates. So they're in groups of 2. But you can see this is a wellness plan, that's a wellness plan. This is I can't remember which one's which, but basically there are tons of. This is only one page of them. This client has a ton of different health insurance rates for various groups of people, and so you can see all these benefit groups that are different. So that's how the groups are used. The next thing is taking the benefit groups and then setting up the system for what people see. And so you've got enrollment groups, organization rules, enrollment rules. Those 3 big bulks of information define who sees what. And I've got remember to plan on there because if you go back and I was talking about the benefit groups and enrollment groups and kind of keeping groups of people separately managed, you can set up who gets passive enrollments, if you're going to pre-select benefits for them, if you want them to have eligibility questions, if you want them to have vacation buy sell, these are all things that you want, in this case, a group of physicians to see. And if you want that group of physicians to see that, then you have to have a completely separate enrollment group for those people.
So even though they may have the same eligibility as another group of people, they have different benefits that they're eligible for that others don't want. You don't want them to see potentially.
Or they're eligible for the same thing that I'm eligible for. I'm not a physician. We have the same benefits, but we want them to make different elections. So say we want, they have everything I have and a non-qualified deferred comp plan. We can set up a different enrollment group for the physicians so they see that in their enrollment and I will never see that in mine.
So it's really like personalizing that user experience.
Yes.
So your employees aren't going in there and seeing a ton of benefits that they're not sure, they won't know they're not eligible or they can't select it until they try to and then it tells them they're not eligible or whatever it may be.
Correct. Or if we have a supplemental life insurance plan that the executives class got the option to, I keep picking on executives, to increase their benefit by 1 time salary and nobody else did. It's the same plan, same benefit plan, different coverage class.
Okay.
We can have an enrollment group for physicians that they'll see that benefit and be able to make an open enrollment election for it, and we won't include it on mine.
Right. Or on yours, you may have a threshold for EOI where theirs is higher.
Correct.
So you can apply those rules and say, okay, if you're an executive, don't require an EOI, evidence of insurability maybe, at X amount of dollars.
That specific example would be a little bit more difficult to
Okay.
administer, but I think you could get to that.
Yeah.
These enrollment rules basically govern who gets to see what.
Okay.
And then email automation, and this is really the cool part. For each one of the enrollment rules, So if you've got 5 different groups of people with 5 different rules, you can send emails as soon as you create the enrollment for them. That's draft status. They'll get an email to their GHR email that says, hey, whatever your email says, your benefit open enrollment is available for you. Click on the link here and it'll take you right into the login screen. On the submit, and you see a worksheet, which is not checked here, but GHR comes with a worksheet that says here's all the things that you're eligible to make elections on this year, and it matches exactly what they can see online. And so the worksheet mirrors what they can see online. This particular client did not want a piece of paper going out to people, because then people would fill that out and send it in and think they made their elections. The thing that's really cool is this submit. When an employee submits their benefits, they can get a confirmation statement sent to them almost immediately. And arguably it's kind of generic, but it basically tells them what they elected, how much it costs, and it's sent right to them.
Okay.
And every time they submit something, if they go in and make changes and hit submit, they would get another confirmation statement dated when they made that change.
And what email is it looking? Is it looking at their personal, or is it looking at their work? Because I
It's
know
looking
sometimes employers want to send it to home email.
Yeah,
Is there,
it comes delivered sending to the resource email in GHR.
so whatever you put in,
Whatever you've got in
that email address.
Yep. So if you're using your company's email, it would go there. If you allow people to put personal emails in there, you could send it there.
Okay.
And so that's a little bit about setting it up. So how do we use it? What do employees see? And so employees access it through employee space. And the first thing I'll point out is the 2 icons, the open enrollment one, and then this new hire mid-year benefit selections. That's not what's delivered in the system. What's delivered is benefit enrollment, and I can't remember what this one was called. But you can change those names. And so we've changed the name on those icons to allow people to not click in the wrong place for open enrollment. If they have a life event, now they know mid-year benefit election change or new hire, because GHR considers a new hire a life event. And so that's kind of what they're going to see when they come out to employee space. And so in this case, they've logged into the system. And what you can see here is an example of the instructions page for open enrollment in this case. This is all customized. And this is actually a hot link that will take them out to a third-party website. You could link that into your intranet. You can either have it open a new window. This one opens a new window so they don't lose their place in here. Okay. If you wanted to, you can make all these different colors. You could put a picture in here. And it's all HTML programming, so somebody like me can actually program it.
Okay. That's what I was going to ask. Is this something that you have to give to IT, or no, it's somebody in benefits is able to do
Yeah,
this?
now if you want to do something really cool like pictures and things like that, I would probably have somebody more technically apt than me to do it. But so I did this one. It's not very difficult to do. And what you see down the left side, all those green check marks basically means that they've been touched. So the employee has gone into that screen and looked at it or done something. And you see instructions, current benefits. Let's go back. Current benefits down the left side, you can see a list of their current benefits, dependents, beneficiaries, enrollments, and then they review and submit. What you see here is, and I'm not going to go into a ton of detail about that, about what each one of those does. I think it's kind of
well, and we've got an open enrollment session at
right
11
next,
o'clock,
which
so we'll have to.
We'll tick right through those.
Yeah, if you want to see more on that.
Watch us in about a half hour. Managing the enrollment process. This screen shows a couple of bar charts here, and it's the different statuses that employees are having in the system. The far left one is draft, and what that tells me as the benefit manager is that we have, over 1,000 people who have not even gone in and started their benefits yet.
And this is probably 2 days before benefits open enrollment is over, right?
Yeah, most likely.
That's always how it happens.
The next one, this is started. Those are people who have gone in and made some elections but haven't done anything to it. Submitted their elections. Submit pending is kind of cool. That tells you they submitted benefits, but then they went back out and did something else and have not hit submit again.
Okay.
And then finalized is the employee is finalized. They can't make any more changes. If they want to do something, we would have to go in and manually help them do that.
So I like that started thing, because in the old days, once you start an enrollment, you have to finish it. You can't stop in the middle and go grab, a social security card to get, dependence number or, do some research without losing your spot and having to start all over again. So that's pretty cool.
And on the left side, you'll see various enrollment events. You'll see death of employee, divorce, new hire, legal separation. Those are various life events that, and new hire is a life event in GHR. So those are the various life events that employees can either have made available to them as a result of a transfer. So if I transfer from full-time to part-time, I would have a life event that says job status change.
And which didn't even exist we used to have to have some other event to make that transfer position change.
Yeah, and so it will send me out with an eligible enrollment for transfer or job status change.
Okay.
And you remember a couple of screens back we saw the email automation. As soon as that record is draft status, it can send an email to me that says, hey, you changed jobs from full-time to part-time, you need to go make some benefit elections, or part-time to full-time, you're now eligible for medical, go pick your medical plan. And so it'll send those automatically for you. And you can customize what message you want by each one of these life events. It's a lot of email templates, but it basically does a lot of automation for you. You can manage down to the employee level through manual enrollments, both in life events and open enrollment. And so if you've got somebody that you've opened your open enrollment up, that person was not eligible, they've now become eligible, you can go out to their record and create that open enrollment record for them.
Oh, okay.
And it takes 15 seconds. It's very easy to do.
Got a question here.
Sure.
Can you add additional work-life events other than death, divorce, and legal separation?
Yes, it's unlimited. Anytime any kind of a benefit changes, you can create a life event for that. I'm making this up as we go. I'd have to think how you do it. But if you've got somebody that just becomes an executive and is now eligible to make a non-qualified deferred compensation election, you could have a life event that says new non-qualified participant. And that would go to that employee only.
And it would just show that enrollment.
Just show that
and
enrollment.
be everything else.
Yeah, and you could basically have the life event, the only benefit that's eligible in that life event would be their non-qualified plan. So it's very, very easy to configure. So some more managing benefits. This is a couple screenshots of how you would actually manage benefits, eligibility, enrollments on the left side, you can do it by resource. So if you go and look at maintenance by resources, you see everything that employee is eligible for. You can click to a tab that says current, what are their current benefits, what are their future benefits, what are their, historically, what did they have. There's a tab for independents and beneficiaries. You can see the medical child support orders. You can see basically anything associated with that particular employee.
So if I'm not ready to roll out life events or new hire enrollment, I can still, as a benefits administrator, go in and easily maintain the employees that are coming onesie twosie.
Exactly.
And then how about, well, you can finish that, because I was going to say, how about open enrollment? What if I want to go live with benefits, but I'm not going to be ready to go live for my open enrollment period? I'm still able to manage all of that. I think you showed us earlier the passive enrollment, but you're also able to mass add.
You can mass add benefits to people. You can mass delete enrollments. If you have a group of people that you forgot to add a dental election for them in their open enrollment, you can mass delete them and mass recreate them.
Okay.
It functions really, really quickly.
So this is telling us it's basically, if you're not ready to roll out employee space or the enrollments to your employees yet, or you're not ready to support all of the customer service that would entail if you've always done it a different way, there's still a way you can go live with this without having to be pushed.
Okay, yeah, you can go live with open enrollment, have all the eligibility, all the enrollments set up, and instead of the employees doing it in employee space, your benefit enrollment team, if you've had that kind of enrollment history, they can go in and make those elections for the employee. It tracks it through the open enrollment system. It'll send the confirmation statements automatically. So basically you can use the system, just not have the employees going in the front end.
Okay.
This one is by benefit plans. So you can actually, in addition to managing individual employees, you can look at by benefit plan who is currently eligible, who's got a current benefit, who's got a future benefit, and you can see what kind of historical. And all these tabs are reportable, as is pretty much anything.
So that's really helpful when I'm a benefits administrator and I have an employee that calls me and says, oh, I did my enrollment, but I don't remember what I enrolled for. Can you tell me what's going to be there? And again, back in the old days, it was really hard. You'd have to go to the pending the BS 32 screens and try and find what they enrolled in. And this seems like it's a lot easier to be able to take those calls from employees and let them know
You can look up what they had, what they're getting, what they want.
And knowing the way GHR works, I could probably just export to CSV and send it to them.
You can,
straight from the screen.
Yep. So you could export that. Like this is the resource level. You can see these are all the plans you're eligible for. And you could just do just exactly that. You could export it and say which ones do you want. It's not a fancy worksheet, but it would be definitely a way to do it.
Okay.
And then this is my only rich client slide. I'm still a fan of rich client, but almost everything you need to do in benefits, you can definitely do from the web app. This is not intended for you to be able to read it. It's intended to show you that with personalizing. This happens to be the health plan. You can see it's highlighted on the left side there. So this is a health plan, current benefits. What I wanted to see is everybody that's in there, so the carrier wants a printout of everybody in their plan. They want a file of everyone that's in the plan. And they want, if they're an active employee terminated, they want to know what their job level is, when did their deduction start. This is just this is called salary bucket, is what we call this one. This one is, we segregate rates based on salary. What is their total compensation? What's their total contribution, their pre-tax amount, any after-tax amounts? With personalization, you can bring all that stuff right on here. And then whenever a carrier wants the file, I can just hit export to CSV and send it. So we don't spend a lot of time in here on reporting because that's more general GHR, but this just shows the power of the GHR reporting on the benefits system when you need a census file. It works really, really well.
Yeah.
And that's that's what we got. And this is not my husky. I have 3 huskies, and they do get into.
Yours is smarter than that?
No. But anyway, so the questions are, how do you do that? What do you guys have for us? If you have any questions, let us know. Type them in now, and we'll answer them for you. Else.
Well, they're potentially typing. Let me ask a couple.
Yeah.
You absolutely need to have GHR in order to roll out this benefits module.
Absolutely.
But there's no doubt in our minds that it is substantially better than what's available in S3. It's low-hanging fruit. If you do have GHR, we'd be looking at benefits sort of right away in terms of impact. And
as far as just to get to that, a little clarifying on that. This is my attempt at being a sales guy, and I'm not. It used to be that you would want to roll out GHR's benefits on 1/1 to gather all the elections because there was no easy way to convert your benefits into GHR. RPI has a proven tool to enroll your benefits whenever you want them enrolled.
Yep.
So that 1/1 date is kind of off the table now.
You're not beholden to it.
No.
That adds some flexibility.
Correct.
There's also the concept that we've toyed with of using open enrollment as your conversion, right? Having people go in and enroll.
That's obviously easier.
The easiest. Okay. So I don't know if we have any more questions, but I do want to ask. It is the first week of December. Winter is coming. What are your recommendations in Colorado? What are the best ski places in Colorado?
Selfishly, Copper Mountain.
Copper Mountain. Okay.
In my free time, I'm a ski patroller at Copper Mountain, and
there's nothing else that's good.
Nothing else, no. But frankly, every ski area in Colorado has ridiculously good conditions at the moment. Yeah. Copper Mountain has almost 2,000 acres open, which is unbelievable for the first week.
Is the little roller coaster open?
The roller coaster is open.
Made it to that
Copper Mountain has 2 brand new lifts, so come see me.
Awesome. Nice plug for Copper Mountain. We'll have to send them an invoice. I do have an actual question here.
Yeah.
what is the implementation timeline you would recommend? Like how long does it take to implement benefits? Obviously
That's a sticky question. It depends on the complexity of your current benefits program. If you've got like the client that has 30 different rates for 30 different benefit groups that have different eligibility and entry dates for various benefits, that one's a little more complicated, and I would give that one several months to 4 to 6 months maybe.
4 to 6, right.
If you have, I'm making this up, if you have 4,000 employees, one medical plan that everybody is eligible for, everybody pays the same rates, that's considerably easier to build, maybe half the time.
And also, if you've already got all of your plans defined in S3, it's a little bit easier because all those rules are easy to get to.
We can pull those rules out of S3
right.
real easy.
If you're using a third party and you're moving in-house, that's going to be a little different because you want to ensure that you've captured everything and you test all those calculations. You have nothing to run it against, really. So that one's going to be a little longer. And then I guess whether or not you decide to roll it with Global HR. So, if it's going to be with the implementation, of course, you'll have a lot longer time to work on it.
Yeah, and so to hedge that question, I would want to see how you want them separated. I want to see your organizational structure, how you're able to segregate employees into various groups. So there's a lot of questions I would need to.
And one of the factors in terms of the volume of benefit plans is the number of interfaces. All your benefit exports are going to have to be developed on the Landmark platform. There's some tools to do that, but you obviously have to map to the specific requirements of each.
And that's
benefit
usually
provider.
what we see is what pushes out our timeline. And if you are okay with a semi-automatic interface, which will, like Kevin was showing, you can create the file, but you'll still have to submit it to
Yeah,
your
that goes back to
vendor.
that one screen where I said other exports ...
Right. I did want to bring up something else that we didn't really touch on, which is COBRA, because the administration of COBRA is completely new to version 11.
Yes. You can fully administer COBRA with invoicing, or you can basically do COBRA exports, COBRA occurrence exporting to your COBRA
I definitely have to ask that question. So are those invoices generated from the GHR platform, or are they feeding into AR somehow?
They're generating from the benefits platform.
Nice. Very nice. Very nice.
And I haven't had anybody that was interested yet.
Yeah. The logistics thereof. Well, I want to thank you, Kevin. I want to thank you, Melissa, for this presentation.